All right, so this is a suggestion via channel member. Let's go and jump into the video immediately, guys. This definitely looks like something we can have multiple conversations on, so let's encounter it.
Well, what do you say? Last time we talked, we were kind of just, and the reason was just like, you know, often you see in news, people just kind of siphon themselves off right into an echo chamber. And I thought it was good. We were just kind of able to see other perspectives. Where do you think the country is now? Like with that? Like,
is that an open question? Or?
Yeah, race relations between, because last time I wanted to get your perspective, and there's a perspective now in the white community. None of us are an ambassador for the entire community, but things have changed quite a bit the last year and a half. Temperatures have gone up. But what do you guys think? What do you think we are in the country?
You know, I'd like to chime in on that.
Yeah.
I'm happy you asked that question. There are a lot of social and economic dynamics at play that have certainly gone, in my opinion, in the wrong direction. Okay. I don't think that people really understand the gravity of where we're headed. We are vastly sliding into an autocratic regime here. And absolutely, I'll give you several reasons. You see, in order to have, you can't have a one-dimensional approach when you're wanting to continue to lead from a global perspective, all right? What you see here today is an isolationism approach, which has never worked in the past because we don't have an understanding of geography and history, all right? And I'll just simply close by saying, you got to understand something. The rest of the world is grossly infuriated with the way America has taken shape. And not only that, we're ceding all our best opportunities to China, right? Look around you,
I'll give you that.
The relationships they're fostering with everybody else, which includes Canada, Mexico, and they've even gone as far down into the Latin American corridor, fortifying their bases while we're still hollering that we're the greatest.
You're talking about China, like in the Panama Canal?
Okay.
Not just the Panama Canal.
Guys, hold on. Like, I didn't expect for it to be like this poignant, let's just say this here. He's making a lot of solid points. So specifically here towards the end, he's actually kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of it. More so things that are moderately provable. Solid. But I will say though here, guys, we absolutely would be better as a country, and many other countries specifically thrive, maybe not so much on like isolationist type of practices, but they do in fact thrive on unity, right? We need to kind of bring everyone together. Obviously, if we are right now stuck in like this globalization type of system, right, it would be absolutely intelligent and smart for us to kind of buckle down, foster some type of unity and bring down the temperature massively so we can actually have conversations that are literally conducive to the betterment of the United States of America. That's where we need to be, personally, right? So I do think that in certain times we kind of need to buckle down. I'm not saying go full-blown isolation, right? But we need to work on ourselves, guys. Right? We've been out here too long.
Let's pivot from the Panama Canal and let's look at the long-term strategy they have now, where they just signed an agreement with Mexico to build another canal bypassing the Panama Canal. And when you look at the whole transatlantic corridor, where you got now Brazil and Canada as well as Mexico trading, and they're stopping in Peru, where China has a huge presence at, circumventing completely the navigation, the use that comes with having to use the Panama Canal. So we'll avoid conflict with America and just simply go around America is what's happening here.
Talking about China?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want to agree with the first part, autocratic. I think China needs to be dealt with, and this is the first time we are. I'm Canadian. Well, I was raised in Canada. Canada sucks. Canada is a dog shit country.
Well, not what he's saying.
The kind of shit we're doing, you can't do this in Canada. If you say something too offensive or I say something too offensive, you will be jailed in Canada.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the thing. Yeah. So I'm fine with the U.S. being the best country. I came here from Canada because, I mean, I have friends who were arrested. I had a friend, stand-up comic, was fined for telling a joke. I don't think people realize how good we have it here in this country compared to other countries. But
yeah, guys, like, listen, I'm definitely a super fan of the channel Abba and Preach, right? I'm a super fan. You kind of have to read through the lines, I think, a lot of the times when it comes to them, because they are producing specifically from Canada, okay? They definitely are. And with that being said, they also need to kind of... Like, things become very obvious that they cannot actually say any of what they actually want to say. Not saying that that's like the greatest thing in the world, but you can definitely tell they're coming from the bounds specifically of a country that does not adhere to, let's say, our iteration of freedom of speech, at least. And again, guys, I want to go and point this out here. That guy's knowledge of the geopolitics right now is absolutely phenomenal. All right. He's definitely, he himself is coming from the angle, let's say, of his own specific echo chamber. I get that, right? But at least he has the literal knowledge to kind of understand kind of what's happening, right? But of course, he comes up with his own, different conclusion because again, he's coming from his echo chamber, but still.
That's the painstaking part about it all is the fact that, I've always been one to say, and I believe this firmly, freedom is not a right, it's a privilege until you wake up the next morning and find out you don't have it anymore.
Yeah. It also comes with duties.
That's what I was about to say. It also comes with responsibilities because while we free to speak and say what we want, and I went to Montreal a few months ago, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Bet you saw a lot of tits on signs. That's all it is.
No, I didn't.
It's just strip clubs. Our Times Square is a giant strip club.
Oh.
It was a couple of them.
Yeah.
But no, like there is responsibility and like everybody's from different places, different backgrounds.
Right,
Some of
obviously.
us from certain backgrounds know like running your mouth too much in a certain space can get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like, you free to say what you want, you're just not free from the consequences. Like, the consequences that come with you saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person.
Yeah.
And that's where we all have responsibilities in what we say and when we say it.
Yeah. The problem, though, too, and I was kind of talking more domestically, the problem with that idea is a lot of people are offended by different things. Mm-hmm. And so people get their ass whooped for something they didn't say, right? That's the real thing. I don't know if you guys were following the stabbing there on that train in Charlotte, Irina Zarutska. Last time I was asking where you guys thought we were, as far as in the country relation. Like, have you guys heard of the term black fatigue? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys know what that means?
Since the last time you came, that's become a thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's just become a recent thing.
And do you know what it means?
No, I'm not sure.
I'm going to ask that you enlighten me.
Yeah, it's a term that's being used by people in the white community, by and large, again, saying they feel like they've been victimized and they're tired of taking that shit. That was a girl who was dying alone in public. And that was a guy who was let out 14 times.
Yeah, it's wild.
14 times, including violent crimes in the name of racial justice, right? He didn't have to post bail. He didn't have to appear back in court. This is not the first time he's assaulted
How
someone.
do we know that was in the interest of racial justice as opposed to just being
Because the judge said it.
A fucked up attempt at justice, period.
Yeah.
Like, the legal system has its flaws.
Yeah.
And people have been making complaints about that for decades, right? But that's just, to me, that's a mental health thing more than it's a black and white thing.
Well, I'll tell you why, because white people are saying it now.
Right.
Not just
And
white people are saying, hey, we're in
what makes
city.
it a bigger thing.
Well, because, white people are 12 times as likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. I'm just going to shoot you straight. It's not even close.
Where?
Across the country.
Where? Not in
The United States. I mean, we're not talking about Ghana.
And like,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, in white communities or in quote unquote so-called white communities,
Across the country, the rate is a black man or person, because most murders men, there are very few female murders, 12 times more likely to kill a white person the other way around. And then you look at the average amount of times that someone in this country is arrested before they're brought in for killing, charged with murder. Do you know how many times they're arrested on average before they murder? 11 times.
once again, the justice system's got its flaws, and people have been complaining about that for years. We spend more time trying to fix that than trying to complain about the white versus black of it all.
Well, I think, just like I was trying to listen to all communities last time, I think this is something that's unavoidable. If this community, if enough white people get pissed off, they're going, look, we're living in New York now, we're getting killed in record numbers, or Detroit, 12 times the rate. And our system, 3 strikes in California, right? That was a 3-strike policy. The reason that was changed, it said it was racist. Crime went down in black communities 30%. But now people are looking at their cities going, this is a fucking hellscape. And the murder is skyrocketed because people said in the name of racial justice, like, well, 3 felonies, you're out.
Because crime is crime, right? But crime is usually going to be higher concentrated in areas where there's high poverty. So typically the areas that's high poverty in this country are areas with people with this color skin. So that's why you're going to have that. That's why I said those numbers could be skewed and made to manipulate to look like, oh, yeah, that's why I said in
not at 12 times the rate. Not at 12 times the rate.
In suburban neighborhoods, white people are not in danger. And that's what this kind of fear-mongering tells them, is that you're in danger because you're 12 times more likely to get killed by a black person. You live in ain't nobody coming after you. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody tripping on you. But these people are just as scared as the other folks.
They are if they get on a bus.
Yeah, he just basically explained why white flight exists. Basically, like, he just basically explained it. But let's see him talk his way out of it.
Not necessarily.
They are if they get on a train.
That lady wasn't in danger because that man was black. That lady was in danger because that man was crazy.
Nope.
That man was mentally insane.
Hold on.
So, but why was he back on
family members? He had his own family members call the hospital to try to get him committed. He told his sister he killed that woman because he thought she was trying to read his mind.
Yep.
Okay, listen, guys. Yeah, I don't agree. Like specifically, I know like the overall like average common typical talking point is he ended her existence because she was white. That was not it, guys. I think that that was the closest person to this crazy man. All right. Now, the reason why he was let out so many times, yeah, that's some DEI stuff, guys. Right. Factually. But I don't think that he was like, listen, there's a white woman here. We're going to go ahead and end her existence. I don't think that was it, guys. Truth be told here. I cannot subscribe like racial issues specifically or animus specifically to that scenario. I think that man was crazy. And based off of all the data that's basically been coming out, listen, I understand the narrative that's currently being pushed, right? I also see what Stephen is trying to do here. Listen, his points are valid, his stats are valid. We're not arguing it. But I think that specific instance right there is you have a crazy man that has been let out consistently because basically he comes from I'm gonna say a lower income type of area. He has mental health issues, all of these things here, right? And a lot of that could come down to the fact that he's black, again, right? DEI type of things, guys. But the reality is I do not subscribe racial animus specifically to that scenario. I think he just looked for the closest person to him. All right, that's just kind of what it looked like. That's kind of, all the other information that is surfaced. This man is crazy, guys. Like, bring back mental health institutions. Not every single issue has like racial undertones, guys.
Why was he let out, though? And I'm not saying it's because he's black. Yeah, I'm saying people look at it, though. The judge said
part of black fatigue.
He's insane, right?
The judge.
That's not a black and white issue.
He was deemed not fit to stand trial, right?
Right.
He's nuts.
Now,
He should have been institutionalized.
Right. The IOU policy, meaning you don't have to pay bail. You don't even have to stay here until you're actually convicted. You just say you'll come back.
Right, which is messed up.
Yeah, the judge, Teresa Stokes, black woman, said, well, this is about racial justice. We need to be softer on crime. So that's her reasoning. That's why he was out. And you can find dozens of examples.
That's her misguided reasoning.
And that's policy.
But that's systemic, though, right?
That's not representative of a whole.
It's not.
That would be incredibly systemic if that was the case. Understand if the person lording down, let's say, laws, onto you is a judge. The judge is basically by default the system. So by another default, it would be systematic. So yeah. There's a problem in some areas where they say the people cannot afford to pay bail. So what happens is let him out.
It's not, no, and look, we always have to say not all. Right. Like, not all white people wear MAGA hats and are dumbass pieces of racist shit. But we have all been accused of racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia. What I'm saying is black fatigue is white people going, you know what? I know I'm not racist. And I know that we're dealing with record crime, and I know that I'm more at risk. And they have negative interactions, and they're constantly told that they're not allowed to voice their fucking opinion because they're white. And if those people get pissed off, like, that's where we actually could end up with some kind of, I'm telling you, I see this brewing. I see people who were milquetoast white suburban who are becoming actually racist. Now, not all of them, but I've seen people actually become racist because they get mugged, their store gets looted, and nothing gets done. They're going, and if I say something, it's turned into a racing. I'm telling you that's where it's coming from. At what point do we have a talk and go like, okay, let's reform justice, but we have to be honest as to why it was reformed in the first place. This guy, it's not even the only one. It's every 3 days someone's being offed.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's transfer that over to, there's a lot of unsafe things in this world. Like, getting mugged by a black person is not the paramount unsafe thing. There's school shootings, there's road rage, there's all of that shit.
Yep. And
the primary people that commit a lot of those are people who don't have this skin.
No.
So if switch it over, if black people say, well, we getting fed up and we tired of all these school shootings and all of these road rage and all that, who do we say something to? Who hears our voice?
And when does the white fatigue kick in?
And when does the white fatigue kick in?
Well, we've been hearing about white, that's the point, right? We've been hearing about it all our lives, about white fatigue, about systemic discrimination.
But nothing's ever been done. That's the problem.
It has
still
been done.
Here.
That's why we've done systemic justice reform that has led to more crime, right? That's the reason for no 3-strike policy. That's the reason for cashless bail. That's the reason for catch and release. The reason for it, in the wake of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd riots, Summer of Love, was we're going to reform crime, we're going to reform the justice system, and it's gotten worse everywhere it's been. And then when white people leave those neighborhoods, well, now it's white flight. If they come in, it's gentrification. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who are pissed off, and they're not going to sit down and have this conversation and be real about it. And they're going, well, what happens when someone has to keep their mouth shut about everything?
Nobody said you have to keep
That's how
your
they
mouth
feel.
shut.
That's how they
That-
feel.
that- I don't believe white people have to keep their mouth shut. I think white people don't.
Nah, they do, bro. Listen, I hear you. I hear you, bro. They do, right? Generally. Because anything that's basically being said is immediately going to be considered some type of ist or ism, because that's basically what we have fostered. People are absolutely fed up, let's say, with the idea of, bro, there are not everyone is racist, bro. All right. But just like how Stephen just kind of pointed out, over time, if you keep bombarding people like your neighbors, right? They live next to you, bro. They're not running, right? You understand what I'm saying here, guys? But over time, imagine if they're called this, they're going to become this, if that makes any sense here. I think that's what Stephen is kind of pointing out here.
Don't speak up about a lot of the things that they do and they perpetuate
Exactly.
that affects us negatively. That's the stuff that nobody wants to. That the issues aren't made about those things. I really respect the platform that you have because you do have open and honest conversations. And I have to say, I don't believe that those numbers about the black people murdering white people are correct. I don't believe those numbers are correct.
What if they are? What if I'm not lying to you?
If you're not, then I've been misled and I've been isolated from realistic numbers. But I know in this country, from the time that we got here and until now, there's never been hordes of black people that just go out and maraud and menace white people. Interactions happen and things do occur. I'm not saying that they don't, but not by and large in number. We can't be this small a percentage of the overall population and still have the numbers that people try to perpetuate onto us. See, black people do more harm to other black people than we do to other white people.
Well, that's true. That's true. Because people who are close. That's
And
true.
we also have historical evidence of groups of white people attacking and chasing black people.
So it's
coming after.
So
Like,
when people
we have
say
historical
it's not
evidence
happening
of it.
now.
So when
I'm just saying.
And that's the point. Is we're at a precipice right now.
That's a part of the historical condition.
Well, sure, but someone today.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I wasn't
Big
finished
Mike,
making
go.
my point.
Sorry, bro.
I wasn't finished making my point. When like I said, black fatigue, that's the newest mantra that's been put out into society to make people think that, okay, they tired of black people. They tired of what you said, that we can't say anything about black people. We can't do. Well, when you hold all the power, when you hold all the economic rights, when you hold all the things that make this country move, when you're in charge of those things, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? I put it like this. White people got the firecrackers, we got the stem. That's it. Y'all got the power. The power is placed outside of the black community. We're charged with all the negative things. Those are the things that are really generally coincide with how people relate to us. The bad stuff that's go wrong with this world is the black people's fault. We the smallest part of this country. Remember that. You know what I'm saying? Beside the immigrants that come here, we have been tasked with the negative, the criminal, the immoral. That's us, and that's what we consider. That's white fatigue. But you know what we do? We just say that's just how it's always been. So we don't make up words for it or terms for it. So now you have a frustrated group of white constituents that feel like, oh, we can't say anything. We have to do this. We have to do that so you don't be deemed as that. Well, if you wasn't that in the beginning to start with, there would be no need for the reform or the feelings that you have. You can't say anything about because you done treated us like shit for so long, and people finally stood up and said, hey, you got to stop treating us like shit. Now that you want to feel like, things aren't going in the manner that you want them, now we want the right to keep saying those things.
What if your premise is completely flawed? And what I mean by that is, if we're trying to understand it, you said you have power in all those institutions.
Yes.
What if, for example, you have an entire generation of people, young white men, women, who if they apply to a college or apply to a job, they don't have a grant, there's no Pell Grant, there's no type of subsidy, there's no DEI initiative. As a matter of fact, they're likely to be passed over. They hold no institutional power. And when you say black people haven't done anything, when you think of this white person, a young white person, because I'm seeing some people become radicalized and it can become a problem. Yeah. And then they see billions of dollars and riots and damages all summer long, and then they go, why is this happening? Black Lives Matter, right? So they're gonna make that connection. Now they have no institutional power, but if they go into a neighborhood that's largely black, they're gonna get the shit kicked out of them. And they're being blamed for something that supposedly their racist forefather did that they have nothing to do with. You think we're ever gonna have unity? This is the problem. Unity, if let's say your dad's a or your grandfather's a and you walk up and you slap his teenager, you now have made that person hate you for life. And that's what I'm seeing with not even my generation. Younger people are going, I had nothing to do with this shit. They came up during the riots. They've come up under DEI, and they're seeing a 12-time murder rate, skyrocketing crime, and any proposals they make not holding institutional power shut down as racist.
Now, why was DEI even instituted in the first place? Because for the majority of time that black people have been in this country and been free, we've been denied so much. Somebody somewhere had to put some things in place to provide access of some kind.
If you believe that, that's fine, but you can't tell that young white kid who had nothing to do with it that he should just sit down and take it, especially when they're getting killed at 12 times a day.
That's what America's been telling us for the longest.
The young white man that has to
not in my lifetime.
DEI, the young.
So it's basically an eye for an eye type of scenario. Listen, guys, that's just not a very conducive argument. Like, listen, I understand you could be angry, you could be full of rage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but none of this is actually like giving us the ability to kind of move forward. You get what I'm saying here, guys? So there comes a time where you have to kind of stand on your own 2 feet and be like, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to compete with the rest of America instead of specifically, relying on like a crutch to win to the detriment of people who literally also have had nothing to do with it. Now, imagine the person, just like what Stephen is saying here, imagine a person that is literally suffering through that exact thing. What are they now going to start feeling? You're creating the monster that you thought existed the entirety of the time here, guys.
The young person of this generation that you said that feels they're misled by being mistreated by the DEI.
I'm just using as an example. They don't hold any institutional power. Young white people don't. They don't have an advantage.
Not yet, because they're young white people. They haven't advanced to where they're middle-aged white people, where the power comes. See, what black people, once again, when you got colleges that denied access to black people, you can't come here. Something had to be put in place. Well, look, y'all got to let some black people come in. Y'all can't just exclude.
That started happening long before DEI.
But see,
long before.
Right, like, I mean,
long before.
He's definitely living, in a time before he was even alive.
Black people were admitted into colleges, HBCUs.
Hold on, let me say what I'm trying to say.
My bad. I'm trying to make it clear.
He's trying to do a senior Wences and talk through you. So that,
Well, because you trying to.
No, I get it.
DEI is just a new way of wrapping affirmative action.
Yeah.
Affirmative action had to be put in place because there was the access being denied. So somewhere, the legislation had to be put in place. Well, look, we can't just exclude all of them. So somewhere along the line, they have to be allowed some access. Okay, that was put in place. Now, fast forward till now, those same things that are put in place for those people back in those generations that are still in place, they're not excluding people from getting to places they're just still trying to keep those doors open so that those black people that were coming through that door can still get in. Because if you remove those, over time, we will be denied the access of.
If a black person has lower SATs, right, and a lower GPA, should he get in over an Asian or a white person?
Let me ask you.
If all things are supposed to be laid out equal, no, you shouldn't get. If you don't have it,
that's what's happening.
What it takes to get in. No, but
it is happening, and I'm telling you, young white dudes are pissed.
That's
I'm
not
telling
the
you.
majority of what's happening.
It is happening.
Small part.
It is
As it
happening.
relates to DEI, first of all, DEI has been more beneficial. I'm a former commercial contractor, all right? DEI and affirmative action have benefited white people vastly more so than
white women,
black people. All you gotta do is look at the business ownership or what have you, and you notice that as long as that white female happens to be 51%, then she qualifies as a minority and a double minority because she's white, she's among the minority in business ownership, and she happens to be a female, right? So you look at that based on population dynamics, and that automatically tells you this whole thing about DEI was, number one, not as much targeted towards blacks as much as it was targeted towards minorities, which includes that LGBT.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what it is. It mainly who you decide to basically sleep with, at home in the bed, guys. I mean, that was more important, I'd say, than anything else. And white women, a mix of white women and those were basically like the main two groups specifically that have been able to, the main groups that have been able to utilize it in a way that no one else really has, truth be told.
So when we talk about that, we need to really deal with the real problem. And as it relates to the riots, let me tell you something right now. listen, in the black community, I'll be the first to acknowledge, we do have intractable problems that are not going to be solved in one conversation. But what I'm going to say about that as well as the reason why the black community becomes so infuriated, all right, is when you see gross negligence of justice happen or misjustice happening and nobody does anything. When this guy kneeled on this man's neck, we're going back to George Floyd. Look, if he had done something when he was subdued and on the ground, what was the real reason for kneeling on his neck except to inflict fatal harm? What was it?
I can tell you exactly what it was, and I can tell you why you're not recognizing the problem. Because the opinion polls, and I'm not saying right or wrong, the opinion polls have changed on George Floyd since I last spoke with you. You know why?
Why?
All the body cam footage came out. You know what? You know why? Because he was there for 12, 15 minutes, asked to be put in the car, they put him in the car, asked for air conditioning, gave him air conditioning, asked to be taken out of the car, they took him out of the car. He wouldn't stop moving. People have watched it now and go, you know what? It's not what I thought it was. You know how many times he was arrested before that? 9. He shouldn't have been. You know what would have saved him? 3-strike policy. He robbed a woman at gunpoint with a child in the house. And so white people look at it, young white people, right, who you have to understand, during COVID, this is a whole generation of people. White people did not have any fucking opportunities during COVID. They didn't get to go to the graduation, college, black, white, all of them, right? It's a generation that's pissed. Rightfully so, they got screwed. I think we can agree on that. They're going, I watched my city burn down for a guy who was arrested 9 times and committed violent crimes against women. What?
Now, you know, let me say
that's a travesty of justice. He shouldn't be out in public.
Let me say this to you.
How many felonies does President Trump have on his record? Yet he was still allowed to
None.
occupy the most.
No criminal felonies.
He has no criminal felonies, but he's got moral felonies, which would, if there was a court of justice for that,
Moral
he probably would be tried a
felonies.
long time ago. I mean, let's talk about it.
Is this where we all get on board with crazy white bitches
No,
who
not
accuse
at all.
women of rape?
No,
like,
not
I
at
thought
all.
we she accused 26 men of rape, that
Not
crazy
at all. But
broad.
here's the reality, though. And when you look at the convergence of this new agenda, where you're going strictly in the blue cities, why is it that most of those blue cities also happen to be occupied? The areas they're going in are heavily occupied by minorities. Why is that so?
Where's the crime? Like, why would they go specifically to the least crime-filled areas, right? Follow the crime. And again, I think I pointed this out in another video here. I don't believe that this has anything to do with race, guys. Again, not specifically. I think it has more to do with the crime, guys. All right. Like, obviously, if things are getting out of hand, like in Memphis, St. Louis County, west side of Chicago, south side of Chicago, where are the who? Doesn't matter who's there. In terms of the aesthetic, guys, I don't really care. What matters is that the crime is there, okay? Follow the crime, get these people out of here. Yeah, most likely there are going to be a lot of, dark-skinned people, let's say, in jail. Whose fault is that but their own, guys? Truth be told, all right? Arrest all the criminals, period. All of them. I don't care what they look like, bro.
Well, black people tend to vote Democrat, and they're run by Democrats. Detroit, you can look at it. You can look at Chicago. Is that what you mean?
I mean, no, that's not what I'm asking you at all. What I'm asking you is, like I said, with this all-out assault right now, just last night they were talking about something in Chicago, right? But 1 o'clock in the morning, you had people in military gear, what have you, helicopters and all this kind of stuff like this here, not just knocking doors down, but dragging people out.
Because it's the murder capital of the country. You just said black people are more harmed by this. We don't want to take out murderers?
No. I think really what truly was you confusing what I'm trying to say to you.
Are you talking about the National Guard in Chicago?
No, what I'm trying to say to you is this, though. If we're going to talk about the problem, let's talk about the problem in its totality. The fact about it is, when you talk about white America being pissed, white America is going to always find a reason that doesn't fit their narrative or what have you. But what white America fails to talk about, and what never ceases to amaze me, is the fact that the biggest threat is not going to come from blacks. The biggest threat is coming from within. You look at the average person that's been committing some of the most heinous crimes over the days, it's 22 to 29-year-old white males, right? Look at how ready they were.
It's just not true, man. Violent crime, you just said, like you said, a small percentage of the country, about 12 to 13%, 50% of the violent crime. But the murder, a 12 times likelihood.
That's a skewed stat.
If you just, so you don't listen to them?
No, I said that particular stat is skewed.
It's not skewed. These are from the FBI, DOJ.
All right. Okay. So, guys. Okay. I think we're gonna end it here. I'll go ahead and leave the link for you guys. This is a very, 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 very long video here. But like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. It's interesting though. So obviously there is someone in, I don't know. I think the stat could potentially be true depending on the proximity. But again, everything is generally proximity, right? Like if you go out into, I don't know, like Utah, bro, who is a person more likely to be annihilated by? Probably another white person. Again, everything is proximity. And in some of these areas that are like heavily ghettoized, right? You don't really see many white people there, right? So if you're talking about that person, the white person that lives in proximity to to like a murderous ghetto, then yeah, probably that number makes sense, makes all the sense in the world. But when it comes down to, like what's the stat? Like for example, what's the stat in Utah? What's the likelihood of a white person being ended by another white person in Utah? It's probably 100%. All right, because it's Utah, guys. You know what I'm saying here? So when the other guy is saying that the stat is skewed, I guess it depends on exclusively where we're talking about, right? I think everything has to be regional. Like, so for example, a person in, I'm gonna keep saying Utah, bro, or Maine. A person in Maine is not very likely to be ended by a black person. You get what I'm saying here? They're way more likely to be ended by a white person. All right, like think of it in that context. Now, but if we're talking about like some major city where everyone is kind of everyone, and everyone is like kind of living next to each other, if that makes any sense, then I think that's probably, that could be very plausible, right? But again, you have to look at the stat with context, right? Because I want to know the stat. I feel like I want to look up the stat, right, for Utah, bro. All right, or Maine. As a matter of fact, hold on, guys. So give me one moment so I can pull the ridiculous stat out of my hat here, guys. But guys, this video was actually it's making me restart. The video itself is actually great, guys. I love these type of like man on the street, sit down type of interviews here. Let me see, likelihood. Being let's see. Sorry guys. Probably fast forward through this here. All right, let's see if we can kind of get this. There you go. 80%, guys. You are 80% likely to have your life extinguished by another white person if you are a white person living in Utah. That's basically what the stat means out loud. If you want to know, that's what the stat means. Okay, you are 80.7% more likely to be ended by a white person in Utah than anywhere else, basically, than by any other group. So that's how I get it. We're going to argue it down because the stat sounds, right? But it just needs to be shown in context. Now, when you start bringing in other proximities and other people, then of course the number is obviously going to change, but not Utah, not there, right? But either way, listen, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.